You wake up and you already feel behind, not because something bad happened, just because the day starts with a quiet pressure you can't name. You move, you check, you respond, you do what you're supposed to do. And somehow, even when you keep up, it never feels like you're winning. That feeling is not a personal flaw. It's a training effect. Most people think the system fails them when life feels like this. They think the promises were fake, the rules are rigged, the world is broken. But what if the system isn't failing you at all? What if it's doing exactly what it was built to do, shaping you into something predictable? Because a predictable person is easy to manage. A predictable person is easy to sell to. A predictable person is easy to keep busy without becoming free. And the most dangerous part is that the training doesn't feel like a cage. It feels like normal. Somewhere along the way, you learn to confuse safety with progress. You learned that being responsible means staying in line. You learned that discomfort is a warning sign, not a growth signal. And once that lesson is installed, you don't need guards. You guard yourself. You don't quit the job you hate. You wait for the right time. You don't start the thing you want. You prepare a little more. You don't challenge the script, you optimize it. And you call that maturity. The system doesn't need to crush you. It just needs to train your instincts. So you choose the smallest life without realizing you chose it. Think about the first place you were taught how to be a person. School. Not the facts, not the subjects, the deeper lesson. Sit still, ask for permission, follow instructions. Get rewarded for repeating what someone else said. Get punished for being too much. And if you don't fit the pace, you're not different, you're behind. That's not evil, it's efficient. A classroom isn't designed for unique minds. It's designed for order. So you learn a quiet rule that follows you forever. The goal is to avoid mistakes. You learn that being wrong is shame. You learn that approval is safety. And once you connect approval to safety, you start living for approval. Here's the part most people never notice. When you're trained to avoid being wrong, you're trained to avoid learning. Because learning requires looking stupid. Learning requires trying something before you're ready. Learning requires risking the feeling you've been trained to fear. So you grow up and you don't choose the path that makes you alive. You choose the path that makes you look stable. And stability becomes your identity. The system doesn't have to say, don't dream. It just teaches you to associate dreaming with danger. If you've ever felt guilty for resting or anxious when you're not productive, that's training too. A mind that can't sit in silence is a mind that can be filled with anything. And if your attention can be sold, your future can be rented. Then you enter the next training ground, work. And again, on the surface, it looks normal. Show up, do the tasks, stay polite, be useful. And if you're smart, you learn the real game quickly. Don't cause friction. Because friction gets you labeled. Friction makes you difficult. Friction makes you risky. So you become smooth. You become agreeable. You become the kind of person who can survive in any room by shrinking a little. And you may even call it emotional intelligence. But there's a difference between being mature and being domesticated. A system that rewards obedience will always label independence as arrogance. A system that rewards compliance will always call curiosity overthinking. A system that rewards predictability will always make your uniqueness feel inconvenient. And if you stay long enough, you start measuring your worth in feedback. A good performance review feels like love. A bad one feels like identity collapse. That's how training works. It ties your self-image to external signals until you can't tell where you end and the system begins. You don't just work for money, you work for permission to feel okay. And when your peace depends on permission, you will protect the system even when it hurts you. Because leaving would mean facing a terrifying question. If I'm not needed here, who am I? Now add the comfort layer, because the system isn't only jobs and schools, it's also the soft, invisible world built around you. Delivery in minutes, entertainment on demand, endless scrolling, one-click answers, one-click dopamine. None of it looks like control. It looks like convenience. But convenience has a hidden price. It trains your patience to shrink. It trains your boredom tolerance to die. It trains your brain to expect reward without effort. And if you can't tolerate effort, you can't build anything real. You can only consume. That's why this moment in history feels strange. It's not that people became lazy overnight. It's that the environment trained them to need constant stimulation, then blamed them for it. Your phone doesn't force you to scroll. It just makes scrolling the easiest way to escape discomfort. And the more you escape discomfort, the more discomfort grows, because you never face it long enough to dissolve it. So the system offers you a loop. Feel restless, consume something, feel numb, repeat. And numbness becomes your definition of fine. Here's a thought that stings just enough. If your life feels like a treadmill, it's because you're being trained for endurance, not direction. Endurance makes you useful. Direction makes you free. And money is where the training becomes easiest to miss, because it feels personal, like a character test. But look at the design. You're offered a life you can't afford, as long as you can afford the monthly payment. A car, a phone, a subscription, a buy now, pay later button that turns future time into present comfort. You don't feel trapped, you feel upgraded. Then the bill arrives every month like a metronome. Work, pay, repeat. Not because you're weak, but because the loop is smooth. Small payments don't feel like chains, they feel like routine. And once your routine needs your paycheck, your courage gets expensive. You don't ask what you want, you ask what you can maintain. That's the training in its form. At this point, some people hear this and think, so what, the system is the villain? No, a system is not a person. It doesn't hate you, it doesn't love you, it simply reinforces what it rewards. And what it rewards is what keeps it stable. If you want to understand the training, look at what gets rewarded. Being busy, not being effective. Being polite, not being honest. Being consistent, not being brave. Being available, not being sovereign. And slowly, you adopt a dangerous belief. If I do everything right, I will be safe. But safety is not guaranteed by obedience. It's only delayed uncertainty. Because the world changes, markets shift, industries disappear, new tools arrive. And a person trained to follow rules panics when rules stop working. This is why so many people feel threatened by change. Not because change is bad, but because their identity was trained for a world that no longer exists. If you built your self-worth on being needed for a routine task, automation feels like a personal attack. If you built your value on being the one who knows the process, a new process feels like death. But the system didn't betray you. It trained you to rely on what was always temporary. That's the trap. You were trained to build your life on the most fragile kind of value, repeatable output. And now, when output becomes cheap, the question becomes unavoidable. What do you bring that can't be copied? So how do you break the training without turning bitter? You start by noticing the difference between a rule and a pattern. Rules are what you're told. Patterns are what you repeatedly do. Most people try to change their life by making new rules. I'll wake up earlier. I'll work harder. I'll stop wasting time. But they keep the same pattern, avoidance. They avoid uncertainty. They avoid discomfort. They avoid the feeling of being a beginner. And the system loves that pattern because avoidance keeps you inside the loop. To break the training, you don't need a dramatic rebellion. You need a small, consistent refusal. Refuse to numb yourself every time you feel friction. Refuse to outsource your thinking every time you feel overwhelmed. Refuse to mistake movement for progress. Start with one practice that sounds simple but feels almost impossible at first. Sit with boredom. 10 minutes. No phone, no music, no stimulation, just you. Because boredom is the doorway where your real mind returns. It's the place where the system loses its grip. Not because boredom is magical, but because boredom reveals what you've been avoiding. And when you can face boredom, you can face uncertainty. And when you can face uncertainty, you can grow. Then build a skill that gives you leverage. Not a random skill, a skill stack. something with depth, plus communication, plus modern tools. Because the system trains you to be replaceable. A skill stack trains you to be distinct, and distinct doesn't mean perfect. It means rare in combination. It means you can do something, explain it, and improve it with tools instead of hiding behind them. That's where real value begins. Finally, rewrite what you think freedom is. Most people imagine freedom as no obligations, but the truth is darker and brighter than that. Freedom is responsibility without a script. Freedom is choosing without permission. Freedom is creating outcomes without applause. That's why it's rare. If you've been trained your whole life to seek approval, freedom feels unsafe. It feels like standing on a stage with no lines. It feels like silence after a lifetime of noise. So you don't need to escape the system like a movie. You need to stop letting it decide who you are. Ask yourself a question that cuts through the fog. What part of my day is chosen, and what part is performed? Then another. If nobody praised me for a month, would I still do what I do? And the one that really changes everything. If my role disappeared tomorrow, what value would still remain in me? Because the system doesn't fail you, it trains you. But training works both ways. If you can be trained into shrinking, you can be trained into expanding. If you can be trained into repeating, you can be trained into creating. If you can be trained into comfort, you can be trained into strength. And one day, you'll notice something subtle. The pressure that used to feel like life was just programming. You'll still wake up. You'll still have responsibilities, but inside the loop will be broken, not because the world changed, because you did. And once you see the training, you can start training yourself.